I'm Cross Me Off, and this is a tutorial on using the ReDrum for random drum beats. Nowadays, Reason, I'm running Reason 11, and Reason's got so many player devices for beats. You've got the beat map, you've got the drum sequencer, you've got a lot of tools in Reason nowadays to make beats. But a trick that I've used for years and that I still use, and this works with older versions of Reason, is the ReDrum, which has been in Reason since Reason 1. And what I like to do is I like to take an existing beat and add a ReDrum to it. So what I've done is I've loaded in a ReX. It's one of the preset patches, one of the drum loops by Kill the Noise. And I've just loaded it in and I've picked the beat that's in slot 3. And all I've done is put the tempo of the sequence as 122. The original beat is running at 128. And this is what it sounds like. So a great beat, but sometimes I'm lazy. I want to use a program beat, but I want to add something to it. But because I'm lazy, sometimes when it comes to programming beats, or maybe I'm just not in the mood to write drum patterns, then I like to do this, and that's to create a ReDrum drum computer and load a kit. So I'm just going to pick a kit at random, say House Kit 9. And what I'm going to do is, obviously when you load a kit in, there's no beats programmed, it's just empty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command R, because I'm using a Mac, so it'd be Control R on a PC, and that will program some steps in it. Now, it won't program steps in every slot. So if you look at slot 2, for example, there's nothing being programmed in. Same with 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 has got beats programmed in, and 10. Now, if I mute the ReX for now and hit play, this is going to sound pretty messy. Actually, it doesn't sound as bad as I thought. But what I normally do is I normally mute the kick, because you don't normally want another kick certainly playing a different pattern to the loop that's already got a kick in. So I will mute that, and I'm probably going to mute channel 2 as well. And now let's unmute the ReX. Okay, there is a pattern there. If I solo this with channels 1 and 2 muted, it's just adding something. It's adding like an extra bit of percussion. Now what I can do is, I might want to keep that, so let's go to pattern 2 and do the same thing again. So I'm going to hit Command R. I'm going to just do it once. I'm just going to, again, solo the original ReX. Okay, you've got that. I was going to turn the volume down of that, that channel. And if you don't like it, just hit Command R again a few times. That's more like it. That's definitely more like it. On this channel, if I solo this, clap, and solo the ReX, you can hear that there's a flam being added to that. I'm going to get rid of the flam. Let's see what it sounds like now. Select another slot and just do the same thing a few more times. Command R. Quite like that one, which if we solo it and then put it with the beat. So you won't get a usable result every time, and you will need to mess around with muting and unmuting channels or changing drum kits, and then you can obviously swap individual sounds around. But it's a quick way of getting like an extra groove to a pattern. So let's just go to another slot and let's just do this one more time maybe. Let's just see what we get here. Yeah, so I quite like this latest one. Now you can obviously then build a new beat or a new percussion part using this pattern. You can obviously save the song that you're working on, or you can put this, if you want to save the pattern, a way to save patterns in ReDrum, because you can't actually save them unless you do this, unless you put it into a combinator. So if you just control click and then do combine. Now, there's nothing to actually combine. All you've done is you've created a ReDrum and you've put it inside a Combinator. But what you can now do is you can actually save the patch. So, and you can save it wherever you want. So I could just create a folder and call it ReDrum Combis. And I could call this House 1 or whatever I want to call it. So now I've put that ReDrum pattern inside a Combinator, so when I load that Combinator in, that drum pattern that we've created will be there again. So now what you can do is, I quite like this pattern that's in slot 5, I can maybe copy it to pattern 6 and then do a variation. Or look at one of the empty slots that nothing was added. Now you can do a random on just one slot. If you just control click in the slot that you want, and you can say randomized drum. Now randomized pattern will do the whole pattern, but randomized drum will just do the one slot, and it's putting a random amount of beats in there, which will sound like this. Okay, we've got a tambourine on that slot. Now I might want to change the tambourine sound for something else. So I quite like that. So you can build up. So you started with something random, but you can actually start to build something that will work with that beat. Now, of course, in the same way that I've put the ReDrum into the Combinator, if you find a combination of patch.Rex drum loop that you like with the ReDrum pattern, there's nothing to stop you putting the patch.Rex inside the ReDrum. And the way you do that is, there's a few ways, but I'm going to just disconnect, press tab, disconnect it from the mix channel and drag it inside the Combinator. But of course, what you've got at the moment is that the ReDrum's been disconnected and the Combinator output has only got a stereo output from devices. So what you need to do is just disconnect the ReDrum and then go into utilities, and you can create either a 14-channel mixer or a 6-channel mixer. Now the 14-channel mixer allows you to connect 14 stereo devices. The 6-channel mixer allows you to connect 6 stereo devices. But the main other difference is that this has got an EQ section, the 14-channel mixer, and that the 6-channel mixer doesn't. In fact, if I create both of them, you can see. We won't worry about the cabling for now. So if you tab back round, so you can see that you've got no EQ on the 6-channel mixer, but you've got basic bass and treble EQ. But the big thing that you've got that's different, apart from the number of channels, is that you've got 4 auxiliary sends in this mixer, whereas on the 6-channel mixer, you've only got 1 auxiliary send and return. They don't take up much CPU, so I would say forget about the 6-channel mixer. I mean, you could use it. It doesn't really matter if you don't want to use effects. So just delete it. And we're going to go in with the 14-channel mixer. You can obviously, if you want to also mix all 10 channels separately, then you can, from the ReDrum, you can do that by connecting to the mixer like that. And now, if I tab round, you'll see that the kick or channel 1 is on its own channel, channel 2 is on its own channel. So you've got a lot more mix control if you do that. But if you don't want to do that, if you like the sound of the ReDrum as is, just connect the stereo output to channels 1 and 2, and then with the Dr. Octo REX, again, just the main output, and you can connect that to channel 2 if you want, or if you think later on that you might want to use the additional outputs, just go to channel 11. Then you might decide later on that you want to disconnect that and go back to that routing. So it's up to you. You can do whichever you want, and because you've got the send effects, you might want to put just a reverb on the snare. You can do that. And if you want to apply sounds to a ReDrum just on one channel, you don't have to send every single channel to its own output. What you can do is you can use everything going to a stereo output, and any connections that you want to have their own processing, you just do an output for that channel, and any individual outputs will remove that sound from the main mix. So channel 2 now is removed from the stereo outputs. So if I solo, in fact, let's just connect the master out. So now we've got the master out of the mixer going into the combinator, and the combinator is going into the mix channel, which was originally the ReDrum mix channel. So now if we go into the combinator, let's mute channel 11, which is the Dr. Octo REX, and if we hit play, oh yeah, of course we muted channel 2, so that won't work. So forget channel 2. That's my mistake. Let's go to a channel. Okay, channel 8. So we take an output from channel 8 and we can put it on channel 2, or we can keep it on its correctly numbered channel. Now channel 8 has been removed from the main output. So if we go to channel 8 and solo it, you should just hear channel 8 from the ReDrum. And likewise, if we go to channel 1, which is the stereo output, you won't hear channel 8 in the stereo output. I've turned it up to make it obvious. So you can process individual sounds from the ReDrum by doing that, but that's kind of getting away from the original tutorial. So really, if we just forget about the individual wiring, let's take a stereo out from the ReDrum, a stereo out from the Dr. Octo REX. You find the combination that you like, and you've obviously got 8 patterns and 4 bank slots. So you can do 32 patterns, and so that will work. And obviously you could swap patterns around in the Dr. Octo REX. So to take this patch further, what you could do is, because I've muted channels 1 and 2 because I didn't want the original kick sounding, so you could remove the sample if you wanted to. So you could just do, where is it? Remove sample. And then it doesn't matter now if you accidentally put some beats on that slot, because there's no sound loaded, it won't matter. Same with channel 2. I didn't want the tom in channel 2. So the same thing, remove sample. Or you could load other samples in and program some extra beats. And again, use the copy and paste to paste it to another slot. To paste the pattern. There we go. Let's take pattern 3, copy it to pattern 7. Again, we'll unmute those. We'll just solo the ReDrum channel. And you can alter, as opposed to randomize, you can alter the drum. This will alter the one channel, or you can alter the pattern. And altering a pattern will only alter the channels that have got beats programmed. So it won't add steps to any channels that are empty, but it will alter the channels that you've currently got patterns on or beats on, which is only 8 and 10 on this particular pattern. But if we go to an empty pattern and do Command R again, it's put steps in the empty channels, but that's not a problem. But it's also obviously put beats into some of the other ones. In fact, this one, it's only done 9 and 10 this time. Let's have a listen to see what this sounds like. It's okay, but you can go in and you can alter the pattern. or you can Command R again and find something that you like, and maybe it's going to put beats into some of the other slots. And again, when you find something that you like, save it as a combinator, and we call it House 2. And this time, you've got the Dr. Octo REX with the slices loaded, or the patterns loaded, and you've got the ReDrum with the kit, any changes that you've made to the kit, and the patterns. So that is a way that you can save ReDrum patterns, because you can't actually save a ReDrum pattern if the ReDrum is on its own. And obviously, if you find a combination of beats that you like, then you can save it as a combinator, and there's nothing to stop you now adding another ReDrum. So let's just add it above the Dr. Octo REX, and it's called it ReDrum 1, but it's actually ReDrum 2. So if I just rename that, ReDrum 2, call this one ReDrum 1. I'm going to save it before I make any changes. I'm going to call it House 3. And I'm going to load a random kit in, and I'm not going to go for a house kit. I'm going to go ReDrum drum kits. Let's go for a techno kit. Techno kit 3. If we solo this one now, just to see what we've got in here, a random beat. And actually, as luck would have it, this time it didn't put any steps on channel 1. But we'll mute channel 1 anyway, because if we do it again. But let's have a listen now to what this sounds like. Go to another channel and see what this sounds like. Sounds quite good. So already we've now got a combination. We've got ReDrum 1 with pattern B5. I must have switched the banks by mistake. So B5 has got a pattern in. I meant to stay in bank A, but it doesn't matter. So B5 and A2 on ReDrum 2 sounds good. It sounds good with this. It sounds we'll unsolo because we've only got 3 channels. Sounds good with this beat in slot 4. So you could easily build up like a drum machine, which is part drum machine, part loop player. And you've got the combinator. So what you can do is you can assign the rotaries and buttons to various controls. So you could, for example, have these switching the ReDrums on and off. Same for the Dr. Octo REX to mute or solo. So you could do it either by going to the programmer, going to the mixer, and saying that button 1 will do... we'll mute channel 1 because channel 1 has got ReDrum 1, and we could call it ReDrum 1 on. So when it's, and actually you need to switch the values around to do it that way. So it's actually muting the mixer channel, but that's one way of doing it. So when it's on, it's unmuted. When it's off, that one's muted. Do the same thing again. Go to button 2 and do channel, where is it? Mixer 1, mute, channel 2 mute, and make that 1 and that 0. So again, now that's doing the same thing, and you can copy the label. So if you're typing it all in again and just change that to ReDrum 2 on. And then this one here, we can do the same thing. So we've connected the Dr. Octo REX is going to channel 11. So button 3, go to channel mute and set that to 11. And we're going to swap it around, and we're going to call that, paste the label again. And actually it's Dr. REX. I know it's Dr. Octo REX, but the original version of Dr. Octo REX was Dr. REX. So I'm going to put Dr. REX on. So basically, it's just muting or unmuting the mixer channels. So we'll turn everything on. So we quickly go through and make sure that everyone has got something on it. So this one, okay, A4's got nothing. So let's do a random one. And let's just solo ReDrum 1. And of course, if there's something that you don't like, just go in and delete it. If you don't want that sound in there. Quite like that. I've shortened that sound now. So what you can also do is you've still got some more controls here. So I would say use this for pattern switching. So rotary 1, if we go to the ReDrum 1, so select ReDrum 1 in the Combinator programmer, go rotary 1 and do pattern, selected pattern. Now, if you look down here, I'm going to minimize the mixer. When I turn rotary 1, it's going to step all the way through to D8. So it's going to step through 32 patterns. Now, that's fine. You might want to program 32 patterns or use the random and go in and edit certain steps and delete things. And that's great. If you don't want to do that, and you want this to work without going to empty patterns, then just change the maximum value, and it always starts at -1. -1 is actually off. There's no pattern selected. If you turn it up slightly, then it actually goes to 1. So again, if you was using this maybe live and you didn't want to ever have an empty or a blank pattern, you would change the -1 to 0, and then fully left will always end up on A1. But if you want to use that as a quick way of turning it off, then select as -1. And let's say you only wanted to have 8 patterns, A1 to A8, then you just change the value of this. So that should be A7. And that's it, A7 will take you, 7 in here will mean that when the dial is fully clockwise, when you turn it fully clockwise as far as it will go, you'll be on A8, slot A8. So the same thing. So you can put in, so we can call this ReDrum, let's do RD1 pattern select. And I can do the same thing with ReDrum 2. So rotary 2, so select ReDrum 2 here and select rotary 2 and do pattern, selected pattern. And the same thing, if I leave it at 31, this will dial through all the way to D8. And then if we go to the, we're going to rename this. I'm going to actually rename this to Dr. Rex or Dr. O Rex. And it changes, when you change the label here, it changes the label in the Combinator programmer. So I'm going to go to rotary 3. And I'm going to do pattern, and it will say loop slot on this. And it's the same thing. You could change this if you only ever had 2 patterns, then you could just change the maximum value. So this dial wouldn't have to travel very far to switch the two patterns. If I minimize the ReDrum, then you'll see that a bit clearer. So there we go. That's just doing 2 patterns. But there's 8 patterns in this particular Dr. Octo Rex. So I will change that to a 7. So now you can step through patterns. So we do this as, if we change the label now and change this to Dr. Rex pattern, that will do. And we'll do this to copy the label, ReDrum 2. In fact, if I put a space in there as well. So now you've got ReDrum 1 pattern select, ReDrum 2 pattern select, and Dr. Rex or Dr. Octo Rex pattern select, and you've still got a button and a dial free. So you could assign an effect to this. So we could put, for example, a distortion effect. And it hasn't auto-routed, it's done it as a send effect, which we don't want. So we're going to just do the master out to the input, and then the output of that. And then we could just select, let's bypass it. we could add something. Let's have a listen. Let's see what we want. Let's change it to. Okay, this will do for now. So I've added a scream and I've chosen the warp preset with a little bit of damage. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign button 4 to the scream. That's it. So 2 and 1. So with it on, it will be enabled, and with it off, it will be bypassed. If you switched it off, you'll get no sound. It's stopping sound coming through because the mixer is going through the scream. So that's why you need to, with these switches that have got 3 positions, you need to make sure that whichever you choose, whatever ones you put into the programmer, unless you want it to be switched off. So I want it on or bypass. And we're just going to call it crunch. Or crunch on. So we know that on and then off. So that's the crunch on switch. I'm going to finish this Combinator patch, and I'm going to fill out the beats, and I'm going to put a link for you to download this patch. Now, this patch was created using Reason 11, and I'll probably do a song file as well. Now, the song file probably won't open in earlier versions of Reason, but I don't see why the actual Combinator patch shouldn't work in Reason 10 or Reason 9, because all the devices that I've used, the Combinator first came out in version 3. I think the Scream was version 2 or 2.5. I've used Reason for years. This mixer has been with Reason since, I think, version 1. And the ReDrum since version 1. And the Dr. Octo-Rex, I think, changed from Dr. Rex to Dr. Octo-Rex in Reason version 5. So, unless I'm missing something, if someone can maybe leave a comment and let me know, I'm going to save this patch, put a link so you can download it. And if you do manage to load the patch into an earlier version of Reason, if you could just leave a comment and say what version you loaded it into. So this is the finished patch. I quickly put some random beats in banks A to D for both ReDrums. So not all combinations will sound good. It was done fairly quickly, but it just gives you an idea of what you can do. And in the sequencer, I've recorded automation lanes for pattern selection for some of the mutes. So it's just a really quick way to get you going. You can obviously just quickly load some different drum kits in, load some different Rex loops in, and then use this Combinator patch as a starting point. So this is what a little bit of it sounds like, and this is the automation that's taking place. So that's just a quick demo of the patch. So it's a Reason 11 song file. I've put it in a folder, and the patch is also saved inside that folder, the Combinator patch. So anyway, thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave a comment. If you like the video, please consider subscribing. And I will see you next time with another Reason tutorial video.